You had touched on this a little earlier, and I want you to talk a little bit more about this, but math is not just equations. Oftentimes we forget that math has many different avenues. We talk about, arithmetic, but arithmetic is one small part of math. And I know somebody that I interviewed a while ago made the point that you don't have to be good at arithmetic to be good at math. And oftentimes we set our children up for failure if arithmetic is a struggle for them, and maybe they're good at problem solving.
Right.
And other parts of math.
Absolutely. So math is pretty broad. It starts with some basic numbers, obviously, but it turns into a pretty broad subject very quickly. For example, in the first grade, when I talk to a lot of the parents, what do you teach in your first grade? They say, well, pretty much addition, subtraction, and, number comparison. So I was like, that's not all. I mean, in math, even in first grade, there's a lot more to it than that. You should be thinking about fractions. Fractions, it gives, a lot of people are fearful just the word fraction, but it's really simple. I mean, you can really make it more meaningful and relatable even at a first grade level. Even a first grade knows what a pizza is. The example I was talking about earlier, you can just give them an example of pizza. For example, you cut them into 8 slices, that pizza into 8 slices. You take 1 slice out of 8. How much of fraction of pizza do you have? You can make it really simple, even most difficult concept that students might fear. In first grade, you learn about the geometry. Geometry is all around you. You can point to different shapes in your own household. Very easy. When you are in the kitchen with your children making a breakfast or lunch or dinner, you can start, take the measuring cup out and, hey, Billy, give me 2 ounces of water, and here's the measuring cup. They will see right there. They learn about the measurements right there without putting a lot of effort into it. Algebra. Algebra is one of the words that I have found many people fear, even people in high school level. But we start talking about algebra, and I always done that. I have tutored even students from the first grade. I talk about the algebra right from the get-go. It's really simple. So the way I give them an example of algebra, you have 5 cookies, for example. You took 2 cookies away. How many cookies do you have? It's arithmetic, but you can put it in an equation form to convert into an algebraic equation. So I give them an example of some simple things like that. So you're absolutely right. Math is pretty broad. It's not just simple numbers. And you don't have to be expert in multiplication, division. You can still teach a lot of the other math concepts without having to be an expert in arithmetic. But the numbers are at the base of math. You got to be able to work with the numbers. So giving them enough practice where they start learning about the numbers, they know how to compare numbers, what those basic math operations are, how do you put them in practice, what's the relationship between addition and multiplication, for example. When you talk about the multiplication and relate to addition, it's basically you're adding multiple times. When you're saying 2 times 3, you're adding 2 plus 2 plus 2, essentially. So you kind of, as long as you kind of teach them some fundamentals, the basic principles behind that, they will become expert and they will start relating to it. And then, so again, you don't have to know all the tables of multiplication tables all the way through 10 or even beyond. But as long as they know the basic principles, how it works, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it's something that our U.S. culture way of teaching math is different than the rest of the world, because I've used different math curriculums for my own children, because I like how they introduce all the concepts at every grade level from a very basic all the way up through high school. So it doesn't shock them when they get to algebra and go, what is this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, sometimes they might just have a space instead of an X, and it's like 5 plus whatever the space is 7.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
It's 2. It goes in there. Yeah. And so then they're not confused by it.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I introduce algebra to the first graders. Like the example you gave, 5 plus blank equal to 7. What can you add to 5 to make it a 7? And first graders or even a kindergarten will like, well, it's 2. Well, you just solved an algebraic equation. That is algebra at heart at a very basic level. And it kind of builds from there. But I think the important thing is to build that strong foundation as early as possible, making sure that children are being introduced to different math concepts right from the get-go, right from the kindergarten level.